Reach for the Stars by Dominic Ashton. When Franklin Chang Diaz was 7, he found out some exciting news. The Soviet Union had launched the first satellite into space. It was the beginning of space exploration. Franklin rushed outside and climbed a tree. He looked up into the sky. He hoped to see a light from the satellite. That night, Franklin decided to become an astronaut. Franklin was born in Costa Rica in 1950. When Franklin was young, the family moved to Venezuela. Later, the family moved back to Costa Rica because the schools were better. When Franklin was a child, he and his cousins played space games. They pretended that boxes were spacecraft. They pretended they were flying and discovering new planets. Franklin worked hard at school. He did well, but his parents did not have enough money to send him to college. Franklin was serious about his goal of being an astronaut. He knew it would be hard, but he had his dream to motivate him. During high school, Franklin wrote to a scientist in the United States. The man was a specialist in rocket research. Franklin asked how to become an astronaut. The scientist wrote back. He said that Franklin should study math and science. He also said that Franklin needed to learn English. When Franklin finished high school in Costa Rica, he went to the United States. He went back to high school to learn English. But Franklin did not just take English classes. He took other classes too. At first, Franklin failed his classes because he couldn't understand English. But soon, he was getting A's in all his classes. He won a scholarship to college. Franklin studied science in college. He also developed plans for a rocket engine. Franklin came to the United States when he was 17. He couldn't speak English. 9 years later, he spoke English well. He had a science degree, and he was a United States citizen. Franklin was on the way to making his dream come true. He applied to train as an astronaut at NASA, but he was turned down. Franklin didn't give up. He kept applying. He did it! He did it! That is what Franklin Chang Diaz's mother shouted when he was chosen for the Space Shuttle program. Dr. Chang Diaz spent 6 years at NASA before he went into space. During that time, he trained as an astronaut. He also did research into rocket design. Dr. Franklin Chang Diaz flew his first mission in 1986. He flew on the Space Shuttle Columbia. Dr. Chang Diaz said that the first flight was the most interesting because it was the first time he had seen Earth from space. What I had prepared for all my life was actually happening, he said. On each space mission, the crew has special jobs to do. On Dr. Chang Diaz's second mission, the space shuttle launched the Galileo spacecraft on its 6-year journey to explore Jupiter. On its sixth mission, the space shuttle took supplies to the Russian space station. It also collected 7 astronauts. They had spent more than 2 years on the space station. On Dr. Chang Diaz's final mission, the space shuttle went to the International Space Station. It brought new crew and supplies. Dr. Chang Diaz walked in space for the first time. Franklin Chang Diaz flew 7 space missions. At the time, that was as many as anyone had flown. Franklin Chang Diaz left NASA in 2005, but he carried on with his professional life. He is interested in research. He is developing a special rocket. He says the rocket will make space travel easier. At present, spacecraft cannot travel far into space because they run out of fuel. The rocket developed by Dr. Chang Diaz would let spacecraft go farther. The spacecraft would also be able to go faster. Dr. Chang Diaz is also interested in tropical illnesses. He works with other scientists to find cures. Some of the research takes place in space. It is easier to produce medicines in space. Today, it would take a spacecraft 8 months to travel to Mars. The rocket being developed by Dr. Chang Diaz and his team will let the spacecraft go much faster. It would take only 39 days to get to Mars. Franklin Chang Diaz wants to help young Costa Ricans. He tries to communicate to them that they should follow their dream, as he did. He believes that it is essential to have a goal and determination. Dr. Chang Diaz says that if he could do it, anybody can.